Last quarter, 8 regional banks reported losses or reserve spikes on their commercial real estate books. 3 of them are running the same playbook. IndyMac, Washington Mutual, and Wachovia ran. They did this in the early 2007 timeframe. See, the lag from Bear Stearns to Lehman Brothers collapsing was 15 months. Here's the reserve math, bank by bank, and where this can land next.
On May 28th, the FDIC published its quarterly health check on every bank in the country. And one number in it, almost nobody stopped to read. In a single quarter, the banking industry set aside $21.4 billion against loans they expect to go bad. And the cushion between those banks and those losses, the reserve coverage ratio, quietly thinned to 166.8%. So let me tell you what that dry sentence can actually do to a person. Picture a man who spent 31 years building a small contracting business, poured concrete in the heat, made payroll in the lean years, never missed it, not once. He sells that business, and after the taxes and the lawyers, there is a little over $400,000 left, the entire weight of a working life, and he parks it in his longtime regional bank because the branch manager knows his name and it feels safe. He is going to use it to retire. Then one Friday, the bank is seized, and he learns, standing in a parking lot, that government insurance only covers the first $250,000 of what he had in there. The rest, more than $150,000 of a life's labor, does not have a line of people to stand in. It has a legal process that can take years, and it may come back as pennies on the dollar, or it may not come back at all. He did not gamble. He did not buy crypto. He put his money in a bank. The retirement he spent 3 decades earning is gone. And in his 60s, he is hunting for work again. And the warning that it was coming was printed in a government report 16 months earlier in a language nobody translated for him. Stay with that parking lot because the point is to keep you out of it. If more than the insured limit sits in one bank in your name, or you own a share of one, his morning is a preview of yours. I am going to show you which banks are bracing the same way the ones that failed in 2008 braced the 3 collapses this moment rhymes with, and the timing lag that let anyone paying attention call those failures more than a year early. This is general information, not financial advice, and I am not your advisor. 8 regional banks drove most of that industry reserve build. Western Alliance, Banco ZK, Flagstar, Valley National, M&T, KeyCorp, Webster, and Axos. The reason they are bracing is the fuse, commercial real estate, the office towers and apartment complexes these banks lent against. Offices in major cities are sitting badly empty with no clean recovery in sight. The share of office loans behind on their payments hit an all-time record of 12.34% in January, the highest since tracking began back in 2000. And the country is carrying close to $5 trillion in commercial property debt, with banks holding about a third of it, much of it coming due soon at far higher rates than when it was written. Here is the consequence downstream. A loan that cannot be refinanced gets liquidated, and the regional banks eat that first because the regional banks leaned into commercial real estate during the boom, while the giant national banks largely sat it out. The regionals are far more exposed dollar for dollar than the big names you think of as too important to fail. Now the fair other side, because the calm voices have a real case. The FDIC itself called asset quality generally favorable last quarter. The industry just posted record net income, more than $80 billion in 3 months. The list of problem banks actually shrank to 54, a perfectly normal number, and only one small bank failed all quarter. Banco ZK, one of our 8, just posted near record annual profit. So a reasonable person says, relax, the system is strong, and on the health of the system today, they may well be right. The trouble is that building reserves is not what a bank looks like at its peak. It is what a careful bank looks like right before the storm it sees coming.
Hey, real quick, if you want to learn how to make crazy money in real estate during this downturn, the tax lien and tax deed program that I put together is by far the best in the country and at a fraction of the price. I'm going to throw a link down below, a sale link. It can change your life because it can make you crazy amounts of interest loaning people money to pay their taxes, or you can learn how to buy properties directly from the counties because people didn't pay their taxes. And you're not, no joking, you're paying 10 cents, 20 cents on the dollar, way less than you would with a foreclosure auction. So links down below if you want to learn about that and change your financial future forever. All right, let's get back to the video.
The data does not tell you the storm has hit. It tells you the crews are already mailing plywood over the windows. We have watched this movie before, and it took 3 shapes. The first is the reserve build itself. IndyMac spent the year before it failed quietly tripling the money it held back against bad loans, then became the most expensive bank failure in FDIC history, costing the insurance fund around $12 billion. The second shape is the loss provision that runs ahead of the actual damage. Washington Mutual, the largest bank failure in American history, told the world in late 2007 it was setting aside roughly twice as much for loan losses as it was losing, yet a tell that management could see the wave before it broke. The third shape is concentration in one bad kind of loan, the way WAMU and Wachovia had piled into toxic mortgages until that risk swallowed them whole. Each of those shapes has a living twin in our 8 banks right now. Let me show you the math, and let me be honest about exactly how much we can prove. The clearest is Western Alliance. Its provision for credit losses ran $31.2 million in the first quarter of last year. This year, that same line came in at $213.2 million, not 30% higher, nearly 7 times higher in 12 months. And the bank itself ties most of it to a handful of large problem loans going bad. Then Banco ZK, the biggest construction lender in the country a couple years ago. It has more than doubled its loss reserves since 2022 to north of $600 million. Just posted its highest loan losses in 15 years and watched its problem assets double. Its chief executive said the longer this cycle drags on, the more projects run into trouble. And Flagstar is the third shape made visible. A bank actively dumping the commercial real estate it absorbed, shedding roughly $1.6 billion of property exposure in a single 90-day stretch. The rest lean the same way, though I will not put precise multipliers on them I can't stand behind. The pattern is what matters, and the pattern is bracing. So why should a number from this spring frighten you about next year? Because of the lag. In the last crisis, the first crack, 2 hedge funds freezing up came in the summer of 2007. The headline collapse, the fall of Lehman Brothers, did not arrive until the autumn of 2008, 15 months from the first tremor to the earthquake. Lay that same ruler over a reserve spike that showed up at the start of 2026, and your finger lands in the back half of 2027. That is not a prophecy. It is a window. And it is the window the prepared get ready in. The same slow bleed that threatens that contractor's savings also forces real estate onto the market cheap. The distressed buildings and tax liens and tax deeds that pile up as troubled loans get worked out, and sourcing that inventory is what Tax Lien Pro and Tax Deed Master are built to teach. The way the people who moved a year early last time bought paper that paid for years. But you do not need either one to do the simple, urgent thing this week. Again, general information, not financial advice. So here is what is actually in your hands and the cost of leaving it undone. First, the parking lot. Go through every account you have and make sure no single bank holds more than the insured limit of $250,000 in your name, because the dollar above that line is not protected. It is just a promise. If you are over, you can spread it across more banks or change how the accounts are titled, and it costs you nothing but an afternoon. Second, if you own the stock of any regional bank, pull its latest quarterly filing and read the one line that says provision for credit losses, and watch which way it is moving. Because in 2008, the shareholders were wiped out long before the depositors ever got nervous. Third, keep your eye on that FDIC problem bank list sitting at 54, and treat any jump toward 2% of all banks as the smoke alarm it is. So go back to that man in the parking lot, holding a phone with a balance he can no longer touch. He is not a cautionary tale from history. He is a person this can still happen to, this year or next. And the only thing that decides whether it is him is whether somebody told him to look. The warning was never hidden. It was printed in a federal report in plain daylight, months before the lock turned. In 2008, the data was there 15 months early. It is there again. The FDIC profile updates every quarter. The calendar of loans coming due reloads every month, and the problem bank list moves right along with them. Those three together are the early warning panel for this exact kind of slow motion failure. And reading them ahead of the crowd is the whole job here. So you see the seizure coming while the branch door is still open. And with that, Economic Ninja is out.